Hello and welcome to this video where I will tell you about a very exciting little technology that has come out of my lab here at IIT Kanpur. This technology has to do with predictive logistics. Logistics, as I'm sure you already know, is moving things from point A to point B fast as they are required. Predictive logistics goes beyond this. We move things from point A to point B before they are actually needed in anticipation of future need. And predictive logistics, as you might well imagine, has applications in many different areas. Imagine that you are a taxi cab aggregator. Would you like your taxis to be in locations where riders are going to be making many requests from ahead of time? Of course you do. You could use predictive logistics. Let's say that you are a transport company. You have trucks carrying goods around the country. Would you like to route your trucks such that they are close to where dispatch demands are going to come from in the next couple of weeks? Of course you do. And you could benefit from predictive logistics. Let's say that you are a police force in some Indian state. Let's say that you want to route your patrol cars such that they are close to locations where demand comes from for police services. Could you benefit from predictive logistics? Of course you could. Use predictive logistics. Let's say you are a military planner. Would you like to rationalize ammunition supplies across your theater in ways that reflect demand in real time? If yes, you could benefit from predictive logistics. How do people solve logistics problems using computers? Well, I'm show you here. They solve it as a walk on a graph. And if you look at these numbers on the graph, these are where you put in your demand constraints. How quickly do I need to get from point A to point B? And when you put these numbers on the graph, you can ask classic algorithms that have been with us for decades now to find the shortest path through this graph that solves your logistics problem. And this is what people do, and it works as long as the demand that you represent with these numbers does not actually change for the time period that you're planning for. However, when demand changes rapidly and unpredictably, then such approaches don't work very well. And as we all know, these days things change very fast all the time. And so there are limitations. How does one fix such limitations? The approach that we have taken to fix this limitation involves the use of machine learning, where delivery vehicles learn for themselves what the most efficient routes are to achieve their objective. Let me explain this with this little computer game sequence. If you will notice, I have a bunch of squares that are moving around. These are my delivery vehicles. You will also notice that there's a bunch of white dots that show up on the screen, and if no delivery vehicle reaches them, they fade away. These white dots are what I'm representing demand with. Demand is time sensitive, so if no vehicle reaches a particular location in time, the demand goes away. When you try and solve this puzzle of trying to get to the white dots as quickly as possible for your entire fleet, you end up solving an adaptive logistics problem. And this is exactly what we use decentralized reinforcement learning to do. With our approach, a whole swarm of delivery vehicles learns in real time to adapt to changing demand structure in the next week, in the next month, in the next year, in a way that reduces their response time to delivery demands, as well as reduces the total distance that your delivery vehicles have to move, which in turn translates into fuel savings. And remember that this is adaptive. This changes based on where and when demand for supply for deliveries comes from. Now, you might say, this is all nice in theory, but how does this work in practice? Well, I have good news for you. We have tested our system in a very challenging real-world deployment in collaboration with UP Police. UP Police approached us to suggest a system for them to route their patrol vehicles efficiently, and we built this system for them using our decentralized reinforcement learning technology at its base. And what this system does is it routes patrol cars based on a history of where requests for help from police come from in the state. We have run this system in actual deployment on a pilot basis in some districts in UP, and what we've discovered is that such a system offers considerable savings over the current state of affairs where vehicles are routed manually. In fact, if all vehicles in the state were to be routed using our system, our calculations show that you would get a reduction in response times of about 10% over the current state of affairs, as well as savings on fuel consumption of about 30%, which translates into a savings of more than 4 crore rupees a year to the state exchequer. That seems pretty good. And so what we have for you is a novel combination of prediction and routing that gives you the best of both possible worlds. You are able to respond quickly to unexpected stochastic demand, and you are able to do this without moving your vehicles around very much. This novel combination is possible because of our machine learning approach, which stochastically learns to predict demand and then routes accordingly. Our product is also not just theoretical, it has been tested successfully in a very challenging and critical real-world environment. Now, what are the possibilities for a product like this? Now, of course, I don't need to tell you how important logistics are, and the logistics market is growing very rapidly, and in particular, the niche area of artificial intelligence for logistics is growing at a massive compounded annual growth rate worldwide. In India, such techniques have not yet been shown to find commercial traction, and therefore, if you were to use this technology, you would have a first mover advantage in a large and rapidly growing market. Finally, like all well-made software products, there are very few barriers to entry for our product, and since our solution is very domain general, if you think that your organization could benefit from predictive logistics, it will take us a month to get you set up with a POC. And so, if you want this, feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you. Thank you so much.